What is going on? Justin here from Bonafide Fishing, and today I've got the SKF 117 out in front of me. Today I'm doing a steering kit install for a Stern Torpedo or Newport vessel. If you're interested in this kit, you can find it on bonafidefishing.com or check the description below. And to start things off, let's identify everything that comes in our kit. You've got 2 Spectre cables, 4 lock nuts, 2 sets of 1/4-20s, 4 90-degree adapters from Yak Attack, 2 sliding tracks, and 2 foot braces. And then lastly, you have a set of internal tubing. So let's start off by getting the hard part out of the way, and that's installing our internal tubing. I've got 2 drill bits here. The size of the tubing is 1/4, but you'll need to drill a pilot hole first. If you look on either side of the deck, you'll notice these little protruding drill points here. I'm gonna take my 1/8 inch drill bit and drill a pilot hole. And now that we have that pilot hole drilled, we can come back in with the 1/4. And now I'm just going to come back to the stern and repeat that same process. Coming back through with that 1/4. Before we install our tube, we've got a mushroom cap one in. Now there's many ways to do this. I like using a rivet. Obviously we've got a ton of these around the factory. If you don't have one at home, you can use a nail or a drill bit, but find you a lighter or butane torch, make sure it's on the lowest setting, and start applying some heat. There's many ways to do this. This might be overcomplicating things, but I found it works for me. I've got a piece of scrap starboard. You could use whatever you've got laying around, but I'm just gonna drive a 7/64 inch drill bit, all right, through that starboard, and then I'm gonna take the drill bit out. Everybody see that? All right. So once you've got that done, you're gonna take your butane torch, and this stuff is very forgiving. It's very thick. You're not gonna blow this thing out, I promise you, but you're gonna take that heat and you're gonna apply that heat directly down the center. So it's going to naturally want to mushroom cap and keep that hole open as you apply that heat. Now once you start seeing it to fold just a little bit, now is when you can take it, thread it over the drill bit just like that. You can make sure all that plastic is now flush while also keeping your hole open. You might have to do this a couple of times to get it where you want. That's pretty good right there. I might do it one more time. And then of course the other way that you can do it is take that spare rivet or nail, and it's gonna basically do the same thing. So heat going down the center. As soon as you start seeing that plastic kind of glow and fall over, then you can take that nail or that rivet, press it down, going towards the center, mushroom it out. All right, we'll go ahead and do that other side. Same thing, going down the center. Press it down, just like that. And the great thing about that tubing, you do have a little extra, so if you do mess up, you can cut it off, try again. But now if you're happy with where you're at, you can go ahead and remove the access plate in the back. And then come back up here towards the bow, and you can start threading your tubing. And this should go all the way back. This is going to be rigid enough to where you don't have to use a copper wire or tent pole or anything. It should go all the way back. Look at that, first try. So you're going to use the curvature of the tubing to kind of run it up against the outside wall of the kayak. And then take that opposite end, and you're just going to thread it through the hole back here that we drilled. Perfect. And as you can see, you do have some extra length in this, so if you mess up, you can just keep cutting. And then we can come back up here, run that opposite side the same way, using the curvature of the tubing to kind of run it up against the outside wall. And one thing to note is that you do have 2 scuppers in the tank well. If you were to somehow get this tubing on the inside of that scupper, you're gonna have to rerun it. Make sure it stays up against the wall so there's no interference from the scupper. For this next part, you'll need some channel locks. We're gonna put mushroom caps on the ends of the line back here in the stern. It's important that you put as much tension as you possibly can on these lines, get all the slack out, so when you release the channel locks, it's going to naturally go back in place, the lines are gonna set, and everything is gonna be taut on the inside of the hole. So I'm pulling out all the slack in that line. I'm gonna pull out an additional probably inch or so, stretch it out just a little bit, and then place those channel locks right by the entryway, and you're good to go. And I'm gonna leave maybe an inch, inch and a half left of line sticking out, so you can just go ahead and cut this excess off. Just like that. So the board technique that I used earlier, it's gonna be a little challenging doing that back here. You don't have a whole lot of room to work with, but if you've got like a Yak-Attack T-bolt, something with a flat surface, you'll be just fine. Again, applying that heat right down the center. And if you start to lose that hole, you can grab a drill bit. Just make sure you don't lose it. And I'm just flattening out that mushroom cap, kind of using that T-bolt. So once you're feeling confident with your cap that you just created, make sure that you wait a couple of minutes for that line to harden back up. If you don't, there's potential that the line will pull itself back inside the boat. The key here is getting as much slack out as you possibly can. If you reach back inside of the boat and that line is slapping around, then you might want to consider redoing it. So I'm pretty happy with the tension on both of the lines, so I'm just gonna put the access plate back on. The hard part is definitely over. Everything from here on out is pretty straightforward. Before we move to our foot braces, let's go ahead and run the Spectre cabling through that internal tubing. Well, tubing and line is done. Now we can install the foot braces first by taking out the dummy screws. You have 2 on both sides. So now that those are out of the way, I'm going to take the shortest set of 1/4-20s and install the 90-degree angle brackets from Yak-Attack. I'm just going to come back and do the same thing on the opposite side. And you might have to come back in later and loosen these up just a little bit to get the correct fit on the slider that we're going to install next. So before I install the slider, I'm going to take the actual foot brace and slide it in first. You'll see why I do that here in a minute. And you want the portion of the foot brace that's got the hole where you attach your Spectre cabling to face towards the paddler. So you're just going to slide this in here, and it also doesn't really matter how you orient this. You've got a larger hole here down towards the bow, just for any adjustments, minor adjustments that you may need, but it really doesn't matter how you orient that. So I'm just going to slide this in just like that, and then I'm going to take the rest of the 1/4-20s, so the longer 1/4-20s are going to be used here. So I'm just going to thread that through the hole just like that. I'm going to slide the foot brace back to give me access to that opposite hole. Thread that in there, and then we can mount to our 90-degree brackets. So one more time, I'm taking my foot brace with the hole facing towards the paddler. Just slide that in on the tracks just like that. Take our 1/4-20s, thread one through, slide that over, thread one through. And they should line up perfectly. And then I'm just going to take my locking nuts and get those threaded on. And I'm just using an 11mm socket to get these tightened down. And now that we see that our 90-degree bracket is sitting flush up against the foot brace slider, we can go ahead and lock these down all the way as well. I'm doing it right now, and we're live, like we're rolling. And now Heinz is gonna come finish the whole thing.
What you need?
I don't need anything. I'll keep this in the video though.
Okay.
Appreciate the help. You just want to stand right there and just watch over me.
Yeah.
Make sure you breathe really hard.
Hey Justin, anything I can do to help, you just let me know.
And now I'm just going to repeat what I just did on that opposite side. Now that both sides are installed, you can take your actual foot braces and slide them on the track, and you're going to have to adjust these accordingly whenever you get on the water, depending on how tall you are, so don't worry about where they sit quite yet. And this piece here is what you use to adjust your foot braces. That's going to be facing towards the bow. All right, now it's time to bring it on home. All we have to do now is tie our spectre cable to our foot brace. And I'm just going to come back through and trim off some of that excess line. So I went ahead and installed this Newport back here. I've got the lines kind of loosely tied up, but I wanted to get this on here just so you could see the action. Everything looks good up here. Everything's working nice and smooth, turning really easily. So that was the complete install of the SKF 117 steering kit. If you're interested in purchasing, check out bonafidefishing.com or check the description below. Appreciate y'all for watching, and I'll see you on the water.